welcome back to my channel. Thank you for watching. Bueno, hacemos la primera parte en español porque ante todo tengo que disculparme con todos los españoles porque esta receta no es la tradicional. Pero puedo decirles que mi pasión por el gazpacho nació en España cuando tenía 20 años y vivía en Barcelona. Ese año estaba saliendo con un caballero que hacía un trabajo increíble como negociador terrorista. En resumen, acababa de regresar de Irak y me llevó a Catequés, este lindo pueblecito cerca de Barcelona, y comimos gazpacho en este restaurante muy tradicional, con vista al mar, y todavía recuerdo el primer sabor, amor a primera mordida. Ahora tenemos muchas tomates de nuestra huerta y también pepinos y pimientos, y todavía hace mucho calor en Italia, así que lo que preparo casi todas las semanas es gazpacho. You know when you've kind of overdone it on bread or pasta or sweets or whatever, and you just feel like being a bit more clean on the inside, you want to aid your digestion and you want to have something nice and healthy. This is the recipe that I make. Actually, if you see a bit of inconsistencies in my shots today, that's because I actually filmed this before I went to Sicily and I wasn't happy with it, so I'm refilming it now that I'm back from Sicilia. Now, gazpacho. Well, basically, I also make it so often because we've got the orto, the vegetable garden, and it is full of cucumbers and peppers or capsicums and tomatoes, of course. So that is what I'm using. Basically, you want to start with your core ingredients of vinegar and olive oil and tomatoes, and then from there you can kind of add whatever you want according to your supplies or your preferences or your dietary needs. Yes, so first of all, I like my gazpacho to be quite thick and rustic, but because we're adding onion, red onion and garlic, you want that to be quite finely, or I want that to be quite finely chopped up, because you don't want a big piece of garlic in your spoon. So I like to just start by blending a little bit of vinegar and olive oil and pomodori. Tomatoes, and then that creates a bit of liquid, and then I just really finely blend the onions and the garlic, and then after that you can add the other ingredients. When you're blending, always good to add some ice cubes because you don't want that motor to heat up and then it will sort of change the flavor. It's the same as Italians do when we make pesto. We always add in some cubes of ice just to cool everything down so that your blender is not heating up. As you probably know, if you've been on vacation in Italy and then the tomatoes are just incredibly sweet and intense, but they may not be where you live. So I feel like more than any other recipe, gazpacho is really about adding and then tasting, because I can give you the measurements, but it depends on how sweet your vegetables are, and also, you know, every olive oil is different too. So I would advise you to kind of just have a look. I mean, you know what's in a gazpacho, don't you? And basically, you want your tomatoes to be the main ingredient, but then capsicum or pepper, and then I like mine really spicy because if you think about it, it's a cold soup, so I want the heat to come in from chili. So I often add a lot of chili flakes or also jalapenos. I love that agrodolce, that sweet and sour kind of flavor. If you're dealing with friends, family members, a partner who say, oh no, cold soup, that doesn't sound very appetizing. Well, I can tell you it's all about the toppings. And I remember my first experience of gazpacho was in that restaurant, was they just laid out all these different delicious toppings and you add that on top and that gives it the texture, because I think eating is as much an audio experience as it is a taste experience, no? And that certainly makes the soup a lot more hearty. And if you are gluten-free, well, for example, for me, often if I'm in this mood of really wanting to help my digestion, I don't want to have bread, although that is the traditional ingredient to add. I like to sometimes make it just a bit cleaner because, you know, gluten can make you drowsy, and if I'm having this for lunch, I want to get back into work and be able to have lots of energy. So sometimes when I make it without bread, I will just cook a little broccoli, and I add that because the broccoli is very filling and it adds a creaminess to your soup, which you would be missing out on without the bread. So yeah, I like to do that. And if I know a lot of you have to eat gluten-free, so that might be an option for you. But I do like to cook the broccoli a bit because that sweetens it rather than just raw broccoli. Most recipes will tell you to soak your bread first. I don't do that because I don't know why. I just throw it in at the end. Yeah, and it still comes out pretty well. I suppose it depends on how powerful your blender is, doesn't it? If you're cooking for a group where some people are gluten-free, some aren't, that's where croutons are really great, because I find that if you have these delicious croutons, which are just, bread that's just fried up, and I fry it with a little bit of olive oil and a clove of garlic to flavour it, and that way, the main soup can be gluten-free, but the people who just can't live without bread can add it in on top. Sometimes too, I like to just blend it in batches because, for example, the other day I made it for a bunch of really big, hearty Italian men who normally eat meat and bread, and they were so full and so satisfied by this soup, and I put it all in here, but it meant that I had to do two batches of that fit in this blender. Clearly, gazpacho is always better hours later when the flavors have all sort of fused together and become this really intense soup. So I just leave it to rest in the fridge. It's funny, isn't it? Like your first memory of a dish, like the first time you have it, I feel like you'll be inextricably linked to that person or that place, that moment, forever, every time you eat it, or at least I am, because as you know, I'm very nostalgic, very sentimental. And I was making this, it made me think back all those years ago when I was 20 and dating this guy. And he was a fair bit older than me because I wasn't very interested in boys my own age, and he was very clever and very kind, and I remember him, we were eating gazpacho and he was looking out at the sea and he said to me, I could marry you and we could live here in Spain. He said, you could write books. He said, I would go off and work every now and then in the Middle East and then come back and look forward to coming home to this beautiful, serene home with you, and I know you like some time alone to do your writing. And he said, we could have the house in Barcelona and then a little escape in Cadaqués, and I could have stayed I could have made a family and married and ended up in Spain, and I never would have discovered Italy because this was before I'd ever lived in Italy. And it's just interesting, isn't it? Because you think about the people that come across your path, or the little decisions that you make or the big decisions you make, and how dramatically it can influence where you end up or what you end up doing for a living or who you end up loving. very thought-provoking. And in fact, well, I'm always thinking about this subject, but now more so than ever because I'm reading this book about free will, and it debates the existence of free will, which is an interesting topic because, for example, did you know that there is this parasite that lives in a rat, right? And in order to procreate, it needs to be in the stomach of a cat. So the rat is afraid of the cat. Sounds like a little Dr. Seuss. The rat is afraid of the cat, but when the rat is coming close to the cat, the parasite generates more dopamine in the rat's brain so that it has a false sense of courage, so that it goes towards the cat, so that then the parasite can switch hosts essentially and end up in the cat so that it can survive and breed. And fascinating, because the poor rat thinks that it felt really good in that moment and it made an independent choice to go close to the cat, but it didn't. Fascinating. Anyway, what do you think? Do you think that, do you believe in destiny? Do you believe that it's all part of God's plan? Do you believe that you are the sole architect of your fate? Or do you believe that it's a little bit of all of the above? I don't know. I think you have to have an acceptance. You have to take initiative for your life and take responsibility for your own happiness, but then I think you have to have acceptance that we can't control everything. Certainly not love. I don't think you can control love. You can control being emotionally intelligent and ready to love someone, but you can't, don't think you can orchestrate meeting someone, can you? I shall be so interested to hear what you think about this because you seem like, well, you are such a kind and curious community, and I honestly feel just so grateful to have this connection with you, and I really look forward to reading your comments because now so many of you have followed me for a while, and I feel like I know you. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for being a part of this community. Thank you, as always, to my patrons, and I shall see you next Friday. Muchas gracias. Oh, also, sorry for my Spanish. Some people can manage to maintain multiple foreign languages in their head. I'm not one of them. I've lost almost all my Japanese and clearly have lost my Spanish as well. But what can I say? I tried. As soon as I started learning Italian, my Spanish just deteriorated very quickly. So there you go. Have a beautiful weekend and I'll see you next time. I'm really signing off now. Really, davvero. Okay.